about your face, but what can I do? 'Cause I'm just a sinking ship, and you're just a pair of lips that I've lost in the moment. All I want is for you to come back. Now I'm caught in the middle of life, and I need.
Greetings and welcome to another edition of the most powerful platform for truth, bar none, on God's green earth. This is your platform for education, elevation, and edification. This is the Red Pill Diaries, and I'm your host, your brother, and your friend, Rashid. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for giving me another hour of your day and another day of your time, because you did not have to do that. So I'm very humbled and I'm thankful that you chose to give me a part of your day or your night to spend with you. So I'm going to do my best to connect the dots, to tell you the truth, and to also show respect to your intelligence, unlike a lot of people are doing with the listeners, okay? I want to give a shout out to Flying Crocodile 46 in the building. As a matter of fact, let me highlight Flying Crocodile real quick. Hey there, everyone, and salute to Rashid. That was a great four-way you took part in and some excellent observations. Thanks, dude. Thank you. Thank you. It's 2 p.m. in Auckland. Oh, thank you. Well, it's like 7 o'clock in my area, okay? I'm on Central Standard Time. But I want to get into it because there's a lot going on. And what Flying Crocodile was talking about is that Sunday, I was a part of another roundtable discussions with Brian Berletic. We had Angelo, Giuliani, and we had my guy, and I'm going blank right now, and I love the show, but who was it? I cannot think right now because I'm looking at somebody telling a joke over here, and they got it on this screen on another one. So guys, calm down for a second. And it was throw me a curveball, throw me a lob, please, somebody. I don't want to leave anybody out of the show. That was on there. Danny Haifong. So it was Danny Haifong. And Danny, pardon me. And the only reason I didn't say your name at first is because somebody is making me laugh on another screen, and I want to apologize because Danny does great work. We had Danny Haifong, we had Brian Berletic, awesome, and we had my guy Angelo Giuliani. So it was 4 of us, and we had an hour and a half discussion over on the New Atlas. It's awesome. Go check it out. Shout out to my guy, David. David, thank you for the $5 super sticker, super chat. Thank you so much. Shout out to Pedro across the pond. And Rulan, thank you for joining me on the most powerful platform for truth. But we're going to get into this, okay? The title of the show is called More Political Theatrics from the Empire. So we were discussing this over on the New Atlas. Because we're not buying what they're putting out, okay? I wanna just talk to you guys for a minute. Let me put something before you. As a matter of fact, let me add it to the screen real quick. So, okay. So I'm gonna add this to the screen. I want you to look at that. All right. Putin says talks with Ukraine possible, but not with Zelensky. Okay. I want you to remember that because I'm gonna bring that back up on the screen. Okay. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you more than anything the theatrics, because remember, Trump is not a politician, but he's an actor also. Remember WWE? Remember his Apprentice show, and we see that Zelensky is a 2-bit. I would rate him a D actor in the West. He may be an A actor in Ukraine, but in the West he's a D actor. And I believe that this was scripted, okay? And I'm going to tell you why. Because when we're looking at a crime, motive, opportunity, and who benefits the most, okay? Let's go over that again. Motive, opportunity, and who benefits the most. America is hemorrhaging right now, economically. America is hemorrhaging globally in politics and geopolitics, right? So, along with the much hyped killing of DEI and USAID, right? Even though the USAID was not killed, it was just rebranded and brought up under the State Department and refocused. The tools were sharpened and refocused. All right. So they took out the aid part that actually aided people that were in need and that needed the services, and they used the funds to then sharpen the tools of regime change and color revolution. Nobody talks about it. I saw Brian talk about it. Danny talked about it. Angelo talked about it, but I haven't seen anyone else talking about that besides me. Okay. So along with that, we look at the geopolitical environment, and America is stretched thin militarily. Okay. She needs political capital. She needs economic capital. She needs geopolitical capital. But what is the stain on her? The Israeli massacre in Gaza, the Israeli massacre in Lebanon, the U.S., Israeli, Turkish, and NATO massacre in Syria. So you have to get the headlines off of that. So now Ukraine is now taking center stage, even as the U.S. and NATO and Israel focus their guns on Iran. It's no coincidence that Iran is having all these war games, and they've sent 5 flotillas out to sea, unheard of. 5 Navy flotillas out to sea in different areas of the globe. It was unheard of, never before done, because they're preparing for something. Okay, so now look, with the empire hemorrhaging and realizing that the boat is taking on water, before the boat sinks, they have to patch the holes. They have to start trying to get some of the water out of the hull of the ship, and I'm talking about the ship of empire. So what they do, they pretend to kill off USAID, okay? Even though they rebranded it, refocused it, and resharpened it, all right? And they're acting as if they really want peace with Russia. In reality, that is not feasible. What they want to do is cause the fire to fester and smolder until they're able to redouble their measures to try to ignite it again, because of one thing that you will learn, that America will not give up. That's one thing about it. Now, I got to give America her credit. I beat her down, but she has a stick to it attitude. If I can't knock this wall down, I'm going to keep running into it until eventually it'll give. And that's what they're doing with Russia. So listen, I want to go to something real quick. Where is it at? Okay, I got some clips for you guys. And I want to take you down memory lane, okay? Because the best way to show you the theatrics of what went down is to show you proof. Not just interject, but to show you proof that this stuff is theatrics. It gives America a way out without her losing face. That's what the talks were about between Russian and U.S. advisors. Russia is winning, but Russia doesn't want to smear America's face, because America is still a global power. She's still a nuclear power. She still has economic influence. She's got to let her out of what she's in. So what better way to do it is if Trump brings the clown puppet into his office, and then he disrespects the Oval Office, disrespects the vice president, and disrespects the president. Then you can say, especially with all of the media rounds, right, that he made, I'm talking about Zelensky, not apologizing and doubling down, right? What does this do for Zelensky? Remember, motive, opportunity, and who benefits, okay? Well, it gives Trump's administration a way out to then say, hey, we washed our hands, we'll stop the weapons, we'll stop this, we'll do this, and he doesn't want peace. As a matter of fact, while I'm talking to you all, on RT right now, the headline right now is Trump again says Zelensky doesn't want peace. That's what he says. And I haven't read this. I just saw it go across my screen. It says, Washington will not tolerate the Ukrainian leader's attitude any longer, the U.S. president said. This comes on the heel of what took place in the Oval Office. So what does that do for Ukraine? Ukraine's president? Zelensky. He went in there and he went toe-to-toe, even though he was embarrassing himself, he went toe-to-toe with the so-called leaders of the free world, which gives him a backbone back at home to say, hey, look, he went to bat for us. These are those violent Nazi criminals that are around him. So he gets props at home to prop him up at home, right? Even though he understands that there is no way for Ukraine to win, but it gives America a way out too, because America now has the justification to wash her hands. See, these are political theatrics. There is no nation on earth that is as good as America when it comes to tricknology. The science of trickery. That's why Hollywood rules, because they can take defeat and make it victory. Okay? And I see all the comments in the comment section. Shout out to everybody. But I want to go into this article that I just pulled up because it may go along with what I'm talking about, okay? And I want to thank everybody for joining me on the most powerful platform for truth anywhere, the Red Pill Diaries. So it says, Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky doesn't want to make peace with Russia and exploits U.S. support for his own gain, President Donald Trump has said. Trump and Zelensky have been feuding over disagreements about the negotiations with Russia and the terms of a possible ceasefire, with Zelensky insisting that the U.S. must first provide security guarantees to Kiev. On Monday, Trump took to social media to react to a news story by the AP, which quoted Zelensky as saying on Sunday that an agreement to end the war is still very, very far away and no one has started all these steps yet. Zelensky insisted that any peace deal must be just, honest, and most importantly, sustainable. This is the worst statement that could have been made by Zelensky, and America will not put up with it for much longer. Whoop, whoop, for much longer. Trump wrote on his Truth Social platform. Okay? Do you see now the theatrics in the office give Zelensky credibility with his Nazis? It gives the EU, which had lost all credibility, some kind of credibility with supporting Zelensky, and it also gives America the justification to wash your hands. And guess what it does? Remember what Vance says? We want to lead from behind. We want Europe to lead from the front. What is happening with this? Talk to me. What is happening now? Europe is taking the reins. Russia is now talking with the United States, and the United States is trying to refocus on Iran and China. Coincidence? I think not. Come on, talk back to me. Man, we're not stupid. So let's go back down memory lane for a minute, okay? All right? I want you to listen to something. Here we go right here. This is Joe Biden, okay? We got some stuff for you, so just listen.
Together, we did what America always does at our best. We led. We united NATO. We built a global coalition. We stood against Putin's aggression. We stood with the Ukrainian people. Tonight, we're once again joined by Ukraine's ambassador to the United States. She represents not just her nation, but the courage of her people. We're going to stand with you as long as it takes. Our nation is working for more freedom, more dignity, more peace, not just in Europe, but everywhere. I spoke in this chamber 1 year ago, just days after Vladimir Putin unleashed his brutal attack against Ukraine. A murderous assault, evoking images of death and destruction Europe suffered in World War II. Putin's invasion has been a test for the ages, a test for America, a test for the world. Would we stand for the most basic of principles? Would we stand for sovereignty? Would we stand for the right of people to live free of tyranny? Would we stand for the defense of democracy? For such defense matters to us because it keeps peace and prevents open season on would-be aggressors and threatens our prosperity. 1 year later, we know the answer. Yes, we would, and we did. We did.
Joe Biden says we'll stand with them as long as it takes and do whatever it takes, right? And then you have the mainstream and the alternative media beating down Zelensky for demanding that America lives up to its word by supplying it with more weapons. Listen, I believe Russia is in the right. I believe that Russia is doing the world a favor by fighting against Western hegemony and expansionism. I do believe that. But what we're doing now, what we're looking at are words and actions, okay? Because I am tired of them acting as though all of the trouble lies on the belly and the head of Zelensky. He's a puppet, and puppets will do what the puppeteer makes the puppet do. America can make him go bye-bye like this, cut off the money, the funding for the parliament, for the government officials, for the retirees, for the social programs, because America funds pretty much 90% of that. Okay? So if America was truly mad at Zelensky and truly was tired of the situation, cut the spigot off. You cut the spigot off. If they can't get water, they die from thirst, right? And what I'm talking about is political thirst and economic thirst. On the one hand, you want me to believe that the puppet is running the show and the puppet is being disrespectful, all while the puppeteers are doing this with the strings. Man, you got to stop this. Stop this. Don't insult the intelligence of the viewers. And I see a lot of people continuing to harp on Zelensky. He's begging for this and he's demanding this. Well, you just heard what Biden said. We'll stand with you for as long as it takes and do whatever it takes. If that's not enough, let's go to something else, okay? All right, here we go.
They're on track to break the Russian army. And the only way they could possibly lose is if we pull the plug on them.
The wreckage of Russia's war machine was on display for Ukraine's Independence Day celebrations, even as almost a fifth of the country remains under occupation.
People ask me, is it worth it? Here's what we've gotten for our investment. We haven't lost one soldier. We've reduced the combat power of the Russian army by 50%, and not one of us has died in that endeavor. This is a great deal for America.
You've previously said that it's the best money we've ever spent. That's still true?
Since we helped Churchill stand up to the Nazis.
We have to have confidence that the dollars we're spending are actually being spent in defense of the nation. All of that is important. But that's why we're here.
But that's why we're helping, right? And he says, since we helped Churchill stand up to the Nazis. Ironically, the United States has funded, armed, and trained the Nazis in Ukraine. Huh? Does that go over anybody's head? And how is it that Zelensky, the puppet, is out of pocket for demanding that the puppeteers give the puppet what what they said that they would give to him? The puppet can't dance without shoes. The puppet needs clothes on to get before the audience. If the puppet does not have that, the puppet cannot go and buy it because the puppet has no will on his own. It was Geppetto that made Pinocchio. Pinocchio didn't make Geppetto. And people need to understand that. So when you see these channels, mainstream and alternative, putting all the blame on Zelensky, they have a short memory of what the United States and what Europe has stated for as long as it takes, and we'll do whatever it takes. All right. Matter of fact, let's go to something else. Okay. You listen to this. I'm telling you, what I'm trying to tell you, that all of this stuff is political theatrics from the empire. There is no nation on earth that can make wrong appear right, right appear wrong, in appear out, out appear in, like the American media and the American Hollywood system. They are the masters of technology. They are so good at technology that you can go to school with somebody. You could be friends with a person for 40 years and they can put something up on the screen and say this person murdered that person, and they'll manufacture evidence, and before you know it, you know what? I kind of figured there was something wrong with this guy, because one night when we were out, he did such and such. All of the 40-some years that you all were friends and almost like brothers or sisters go out the window, because the media has a way of putting pressure here and inundating you with their perspective, delegitimizing your stand. I'm telling you. Let's go further. I want you to see, because we gotta back this stuff up with proof. Okay, where's the proof? The proof. We're gonna show you proof. Let's go here.
Joining us now is Republican South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator, great to have you here on this holiday week, sir. A lot of news, a lot happening. We're watching the White House. We'll be watching the Capitol later today. To what extent do you believe this country should continue to aid Ukraine in this fight?
Completely all in, without equivocation. If Putin dismembers Ukraine, he will not stop. China is more likely to go into Taiwan. The world will unravel, and no domestic problem gets better here at home, allowing Putin to destroy Ukraine. Quite the opposite. If you can stop Putin in Ukraine, China will probably rethink invading Taiwan, and the world will be a better place. Nobody's dying over here, no American soldiers. We're spending money, but it's being spent at a good cause, the cause of freedom. So I'm all in, whatever they need, as long as they need it.
So when you say all in, Senator, would you agree to give Zelensky what he says he wants, which is the long-range ATACMS artillery missiles? Would you give him Gray Eagle drones? Would you give him Reaper drones? You give him all that?
I would give him the ability to dislodge Russians from his country. Right now, the Biden administration has done more, and I appreciate doing more, but not the offensive capability to dislodge the Russians from the east, particularly Crimea. So the longer-range weapons would hurt the Russian military more effectively. The drones would be the biggest game changer. If you had these large Reaper gray drones, you would kill tons of Russians without losing any Ukrainians in the endeavor and change the tide of battle. The Biden administration just can't quite embrace victory for Ukraine. I can.
We're just starting to get some word from the White House on the discussion that the two world leaders are having, Senator. I can bring you a couple.
We see Lindsey Graham is talking about supplying more weapons. And Zelensky said, hey, we need the weapons. Now, I'm not advocating for the supply of weapons to Ukraine, because Ukraine was out of pocket, and so was the United States. All of this is they wanted to break Ukraine away from Russia. This did not start with Donald Trump. This did not start with Joe Biden. This did not start with Obama or George Bush Jr. or Bill Clinton or George Bush Sr. This goes back to Carter. This goes back to even before Carter, but specifically Carter, because the doctrine every last one of these administrations are pushing is the doctrine of Brzezinski. Brzezinski said that to prevent Russia from becoming a global power, you had to strip Ukraine away. And that's what we saw. And they took a stab at it, and they failed. Right? They failed miserably. But remember, you got media beating on Zelensky as though he's out of pocket. And he's out of pocket in a lot of things, but he's not out of pocket for demanding that the West live up to all the promises. He was a fool. He was a rat. He was a mouse. And he was so greedy that he wanted to take some more cheese out of the mousetrap. And he got suckered. And now his tail is trapped in the trap. And everybody is turning on him because he's saying, hey, listen, we need this. We need that. Would you do this? Would you do that? Would you give us this? You said this. You said this. And they don't want to hear it no more because they want a way out. So Zelensky is not a man for peace. He's never been a man for peace. You knew it when you were backing him. But that's what America and the West do to their puppets when they've outused their utility. Okay? So he's a man of peace, and I bag Ukraine, and I bag Zelensky, right? That's what he says, right? Now let's see what Graham says today.
What I think? Complete, utter disaster. I've been to Ukraine 8 or 9 times since the war started. I understand the consequences of Putin's actions against Ukraine. I appreciate what the Ukrainian people have done. They fought like tigers. At the end of the day, I was hoping that this minerals deal, which would be transformative in the relationship, would go over well. I talked to Zelensky this morning. Don't take the bait. President Trump was in a very good mood last night. Somebody asked me, am I embarrassed about Trump? I have never been more proud of the president. I was very proud of J.D. Vance, standing up for our country. We want to be helpful. What I saw in the Oval Office was disrespectful, and I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelensky again. I think most Americans saw a guy that they would not want to go in business with. The way he handled the meeting, the way he confronted the president was just over the top. So I think the relationship between Ukraine and America is important, vitally important. But can Zelensky do a deal with the United States? After what I saw, I don't know.
Do you think President Zelensky needs to resign to resume these peace talks?
He either needs to resign and send somebody over that we can do business with, or he needs to change.
Okay, what did Vladimir Putin say? Let me put this back on screen. Remember, I told you we're coming right back to this now. Putin says, this is January, talks with Ukraine is possible, but not with Zelensky. Isn't it ironic that the war hawk Lindsey Graham is now saying that he has to either resign or change drastically, right? Mirroring what Vladimir Putin said were some of the main terms for a negotiated settlement. Isn't that something? I told you when you come here, you get facts. So just look at that. What does it say here? It says, Putin says talks with Ukraine possible, but not with Zelensky. Russian President Vladimir Putin said Tuesday that talks with Ukraine were possible, but not with its president Volodymyr Zelensky, whom he deemed illegitimate. U.S. President Trump has put pressure on both sides to end the nearly 3-year conflict, saying last week that Zelensky wanted to negotiate a deal to stop the fight. Now, what is Trump saying now? Over here on this screen, I can't pull this up, but you can go to RT, and the title of the article is Trump again says Zelensky doesn't want peace. Is Putin conforming to what the U.S. President Donald Trump and the Senator Lindsey Graham is saying, or are they now, to save face, conforming to what Putin has demanded? Because these were core issues that Putin, Lavrov, and multiple officials says that would not be negotiated away. Core issues. Huh? I'm asking. So what I'm telling you is that what you saw in the White House is political theater to justify America turning tails and saving face, because what is happening in Ukraine? The line of contact is collapsing. What is happening in Ukraine? It has been a brain drain on America, an economic drain on America, and a military drain on America, but not just America, but the whole of the West. And China rising at such a fast pace, and with Iran showing more advanced weaponry, this has put the U.S. on notice that we have to try to get to Iran to stop it, because we can't do anything with it. I got a video on my channel with Larry Johnson. It's a clip. Well, Larry states that I believe it's Larry Johnson states that America can no longer subdue Iran militarily, right? And I believe that was from last year. So now we're roughly a year ahead, and Iran is breaking out all of these new advancements, plus with China help and with Russia help. Do you not know that if they cannot stop Iran's technical advancement, that Israel will cease to be? And they need Israel to justify American and British presence in North Africa and the Middle East. They need Iran to be brought to yield so that they can be in the underbelly of Russia, Central Asia, and China. That's why they have recalculated And what I say about the empire, whenever it's hemorrhaging, whenever it's bleeding, whenever it's losing or suffering, they recalibrate, rearm, and they need a little rest. So they're resting. They're trying to rest a little bit. They are trying to get a little space so that they can rearm, and then they can recalibrate and focus on Iran, then China, so that they can double back and try to prevent the breakout capacity of the new global power, which is China. It's clear. I haven't made anything up. We're going on clips. We're going on articles that I just brought up. Remember, I just brought this stuff up right before the show started. So I know if I can pull this stuff up, you can. All right? And with the debt situation at such a pace, it's unnerving the West because the West needs debt. You understand? And this is why there's constant war, okay? This is why there's constant war. Most people don't understand that the reason that America and Britain and NATO continue to expand and create instability and push war and won't bring their troops home is because they have to have host bodies for their parasitic economies. They have to have that. And once they suck the life's blood, they have to move on to other. And that is the debt that they put on other nations to keep the system afloat. If they stop taking on debt, then boom goes the dynamite. Matter of fact, let me play a little clip for you from my recent talk. Well, not recent, but I got a couple shows coming up that's going to be hardcore with Gregory Mannarino, the guru of Wall Street. I got a show coming up with Glenn Deason of the Duran. I got a few more other shows coming up. They escaped me, the guests that we're having on. So stay tuned and join us on all of these shows, okay? I want you to listen to what Gregory Mannarino has to say on my show, okay? Well, Greg, I remember when you and I were talking last time, you were talking about how the system is made on debt and how it has to have debt to sustain itself. And the minute that it stops printing debt, it implodes. Could you elaborate on that more for the people who may be listening or who will listen later on what you mean by that and give them just a little insight to that? Because a lot of people don't know that, because I talk to people and they don't understand that and they don't know that.
No, we don't, because we don't have a commodity-backed currency. When you lose the currency, we were supposed to have a gold standard, okay? And that's how this nation was set up. Our forefathers were smart enough to realize that we needed to have a commodity-backed currency. When it went to this fiat, what is it? Fiat means so let it be. That's really what we have. Fiat currency. This piece of paper, I'm going to draw some numbers on it, and that's what it's going to be worth. You know, once we went to that and it was taken over by the central banks, who now can just add digits to a screen, or before were able to do that, just print it out of thin air. Central banks produce debt. That's all they produce. They don't produce anything else. They manipulate and play with debt. That's all they do. The dollars that we work for, okay, we don't own these things with the pieces of paper with numbers printed on them. Okay, we work for the privilege to borrow these bills, just like our nation does, from the central bank or from wherever else they're going to borrow these from. Like the Treasury. The Treasury here sells. How does it work? The U.S. Treasury has to sell debt in order to fund itself. But who's the number one buyer of U.S. debt? The Federal Reserve. Okay, everyone knows this. But again, central banks produce one product, and that product is debt. The bills that we work for are not ours. We don't own them. They're owned by the issuing central bank, in this case, the Federal Reserve, and they're owed back to the issuing central bank, in this case, the Federal Reserve, plus interest they create out of nothing. It's amazing. So these are not units of wealth. These are not backed by anything. They're units of debt. They're IOUs. All those bills in your pocket and the zeros that you think are in your bank account, they're not yours. You work for the privilege to borrow them. That is all. People think it's theirs, but it's not. And that's how the debt-based economic model works. And the debt, in order to function, in order for the system to function, even at its current level, the debt must exponentially be increased. This is what creates inflation here. Henceforth, why, since the inception of the Federal Reserve, the U.S. dollar has now lost 98% of its purchasing power. 98, and they want it all. I mean, central banks collectively, I've been telling people this for 10 years, they're in a race to the bottom. They're trying to see who can devalue their currency faster. Again, because where does the central bank's power reside? We covered it already in one thing: its ability to inflate or its ability to issue debt. We take that away, central banking dies. If we can kill one central bank, just one, we will start a domino effect and they'll all start to die. Why do you think, for example, there was this big debate during the debt ceiling? Oh, we got to raise it. Oh, we got to raise it. And you had Janet Yellen with that face. This is Janet Yellen's face. Imagine me with a bowl haircut. This is what she looks like to me. So you got, she's practically on her knees. Oh, please, we got to do, because she knew if we did not raise the debt ceiling, and the Federal Reserve would have started to die. And then that would have started, and within a matter of months, although it would have hurt the economy at first, it would have hurt the economy bad because we were now we're still locked into this debt-based system. We would have had what's called a credit freeze. It would have locked up no transactions. It would have been pretty traumatic, but then we could have built ourselves up out of it and we could have killed the world central bank.
Shout out to M Sparks for the $2 super chat. Shalom, Red Pill Nation. You better believe it. Listen, there is no way. I want you to understand something. Let's look at something for a minute. Look at the leaders that America has killed for less than what Zelensky did. And they allowed him to board his plane and to leave. Think about that for a minute. And he did it in the Oval Office. And all you get is this rhetoric from the world leaders. Especially, let's look at this again now. Trump, a narcissist, and his whole inner circle are narcissists. Just like Biden was a narcissist, just like Obama was a super narcissist, just like all of them are narcissistic. You want me to believe that Trump, as narcissistic as he is and as petty as he can be, was allowing that to happen? And he was cool with that, only to issue threats after that? Come on. Listen, forget that's Trump for a minute. Just put Biden up there, or Obama up there, or Bush Jr. up in there. Do you actually believe that anyone would have been allowed in the White House to dress down the president, the vice president, and the crew there in front of the American people in the world without any ramifications? This dude depends on the United States for his budget. He depends on the United States for political cover. He depends on the United States for military hardware. And U.S. and British special forces are guarding him. And he's allowed to do that? When somebody tried to jump the White House fence, which is a lesser offense, man, they beat the guy down, stumped a hole in him, dragged him off, and you haven't heard anything else from him. And you're telling me they're going to do this to somebody of a lesser extent, but won't save face on the world stage? This is theatrics. These are political theatrics from the empire. I want somebody to prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Show me, like I said on one of my other shows, and I'll wait. Show me a moment in history where a leader or a person that was paid for, controlled, armed by, and covered politically by the U.S. and Britain were allowed to act independently and allowed to do just something minute compared to what Zelensky did in office. Show me. And they were allowed to live or continue controlling their country. Show me. I'm waiting. And if you can't show me, then history is on my side. I'm not speculating. I'm saying history is on my side. You become the speculator when you start saying that, this was not scripted. And then I ask you, well, show me in time where this was allowed to take place. Even something more less grotesque happened to the world leaders, the American leaders, and nothing happened to them. Show me. Show it to me. America is so vindictive. Let me tell you something. That when Muammar Gaddafi kicked America out of the Libyan country 40, 50 years ago, at the time that was where America had her biggest base in that area. When Muammar Gaddafi and his group of leaders came to power, they said that the Italians, the British, the French, and the U.S. had to go. They were so vindictive about it that before they overthrew him, they did a movie about overthrowing him called No Way Out with Ray Liotta, where a so-called uprising took place in Benghazi. And a lot of people were killed, and this was used as justification for the U.S. military to move in, right? But Muammar Gaddafi was killed in the 2000s plus, right? Ray Liotta's movie came out in the 80s. You see how vindictive she is. And you're telling me that Zelensky, that is surrounded by U.S. and British special forces who get their orders and their paychecks from the U.S. and Britain, will allow for that to happen? Man, stop this. Stop it. And for anybody pushing that, they're pushing crap on you. Because they're insulting you. They want you to ignore everything that took place prior to that, everything that was said prior to that, and everything that was done that led up to that moment. Is Zelensky still walking around? Now listen, let me show you the difference in this to prove my point. When Zelensky violated Russia, and they tried to attack the Kremlin, and they attacked other areas in Moscow and in certain regions in Russia. Zelensky went into hiding, didn't he? And he had NATO countries talk to him and beg Russia not to kill him. And he was so scared that Russia would target one of those underground presidential bunkers that he had the U.S. and other NATO nations to try to talk Russia out of killing him. And Russia said, we have no interest in killing him. So on one hand, he runs for life with Russia, and yet he disrespects the so-called leader of the free world on live TV for the world to see, and he's walking around just as happy and just as confident, and he's not fearing his life. That's not political theatrics. Man, stop this. Stop it. Stop this. Shout out, I got to get to the chat real quick. And then we'll go further on, but come on. Yeah, Cosmo Ray says, look what happened to Muammar Gaddafi. I say the great Muammar Gaddafi, because he took the illiteracy rate, which was 98% in Libya, and flipped it, and everybody became literate. It was a 99 point some literacy rate. And also, all of your electricity. See, I wouldn't mind living under a tyrant like this. The water was free. The electricity was free. You had free food stipends. You got a share of the natural minerals that were being sold on the international market. If you wanted to go to school, you had your choice to go to school in Libya or go to school abroad, and the Libyan government would pay for it. If you got married, you got a house and a $50,000 stipend. I want to live under a tyrant like this because the Democratic people that we're living under do nothing but fleece the people, divide the people, and then try to conquer and control them while rich continue to get richer, the poor continues to get poor, and the middle class get destroyed. You understand? So, Max, M Sparks, shout out to M Sparks, becomes a new channel member. Shout out. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Flying Crocodile is in the building again with a $10 super chat. Salute and thank you all. Thank you. This really makes my heart feel good because it shows me that the work is not in vain and that you're understanding what's going on. I really, really appreciate this. I'm serious. Other people may not stop to tell you this, but I want to tell everybody that's listening, whether you give $1 or whether you just give a minute, it means the world to me because you didn't have to do this. You didn't have to do this. You don't have to do this. For you to take the time out to listen and then weigh what I'm saying, it means everything because your life depends on it. And there's so many people fleecing you and lying to you and misdirecting you for financial gain. We've got to stop that. People's lives matter. The security of people's lives matter. You can produce a life, but you can't reproduce one that is extinguished. So we got to do our very best to get the best information out to the people so they can make the best educated decision for them and their families. Because I would want you to do that for me. Okay? So what it says, Perseverance Chameleon says, the elites are creating as many distractions as possible before they run off with our money. Boom! Mic drop moment. Leave that up there for a minute. Mic drop moment right there. Absolutely. And they want to point out everybody's the enemy. They want to point out everybody's doing this while they're fleecing the people. Do you know that the Trump administration has 15 billionaires in it? Now I want to ask you something. Let's look at the MAGA mantra, make America great again. As I said on my guy Brian's channel, if Trump and his administration truly wanted to make America great again, take the funds that you are giving to all of these military bases across the world and all of these covert and overt wars, right? And reinvested $20 billion to eradicate homelessness, $40 billion to eradicate poverty. All right. Take $150 billion, or the exact amount that you invested in Ukraine, and invest in infrastructure, technology, and school. Listen to me very well, because this gets left off of the geopolitical spectrum. This gets left off of the political spectrum. Education. The neglect of the educational system is the fall of any nation or empire. When you defund an educational system, you're defunding the very thing that educates and civilizes the people. If you don't believe what I'm saying, look anywhere in America and all you see is savagery, the disrespect of woman, the disrespect of man, the disrespect of family, the disrespect of life. And it is mirrored in America's foreign policy. Because everybody is becoming a savage. And that does not look well into the future, because without proper education and guidance, you are now depleting the resources mentally of your people. And what would have become a great scholar, a great teacher, a great educator, a great scientist, a great architect, now withers in the dust. And you fall behind nations like Vietnam, and you fall behind nations like China, and you fall behind nations like Nigeria, and you fall behind other nations that are building up their educational system and focusing in on the needs of the masses of the people. And right now you don't see but 5 years when they come up with new ideas and new innovations, and you're lagging behind. you'll see, and it'll be too late. Look at what's happened, the revolution, technological revolution that's happened in China. And China is exporting its technology to Africa and Asia and Latin America and West Asia. In America, all she can think about is focusing her military prowess everywhere to try to destabilize, colonize, and then occupy the nations to dominate the resources and all of the routes which the resources must travel to get across the world for commerce and trade. When you defund your educational system, you are defunding the progression of your nation. You're helping to devolve your civilization. Not evolve, you're devolving. That's why people don't respect life. That's why they'll kill you in a minute over a pair of sneakers. That's why you can be walking with your child and somebody, they don't care you have a baby on you, they'll kill you and the baby. And people have become so savage that if they rob you and you don't have what they want, now they don't have it now, but if you rob them and you don't have what they want, they'll kill you because you don't have what they should have had themselves. This is all political theatrics. I'm telling you this. What we're watching is the collapse of the American empire, the British empire, and the Western world. Cosmo Ray says Deep Seek, a prime example. And let me get to Deep Seek for a minute. Look at what's happening. America comes out with something like Deep Seek before Deep Seek, and they fleece the people, charging these enormous prices for you to use it. Deep Seek comes out using the same open sources for free, and it becomes a national security threat. It's not a national security threat. It's a threat to the pockets of the billionaires who make policy and implement policies so that they can keep their billions while acquiring more billions on your back, reducing you to serfdom. That's what that is. That's what that is. So all of this political theatrics is to try to give the empire one more day. But they don't, because they have become savagery in their thinking that we must rule at all costs, that no one has the right to do this but America and the West, that we must prevent this person's rise. And think about how arrogant and how selfish this has to be. We must prevent China's rise. We must prevent Africa's rise. They even are trying to prevent Germany's rise. And Germany is a part of the West. Right? Instead of them doing that, it would behoove them to take the resources that they're putting to stymie and stop other people's rises and invest in their own rise. Stop watching everybody else's pockets. Stop watching what everybody else is doing and focus on yourself. The best gift that you can give to yourself is to turn inwardly and look at you for what you are and try to remove the impediments and be the best person, best people, best nation you can be. Because starting war is not that. Look, Eva says, I got to put this up here. I got to put this up here on the screen. Eva says 54% of American adults read below a 6th grade level. That's why I don't send my my children to school. Only my I have an autistic daughter. She goes, but my other children, they don't go to school. I have a 9-year-old. He was, well, all of my children started reading when they were 2. My oldest son, he's 20. Well, he's not my oldest. He's my next oldest son. He was reading before he turned 2. And it shocked me so because my wife and I we spent a lot of time with them and we put a lot into that. And one day he was reading something on the television. I think he was like 18 months, something like that. And I went over to my wife and I said, "Hey, did you teach him that?" She's like, "No." I said, "Maybe he memorized that off the TV." And so I went and got the newspaper. At this time, newspapers were relevant. They were relevant. And I told my son, I said, "Khalif, read that." And he started reading the newspaper. And I'm like, what the world? And so, and here's the inside joke. My sister always tells me when my children do something, all my sisters tell me this. You act like that's amazing. All my nieces and nephews are brilliant. You're the dumb one in the house. So they always tell me that I'm the dumbest person in the house. And I believe that when I deal with my children, they are so intelligent. They can read, they can write, they can do it. My son, my 9-year-old, he does apps. This comes from a family being centered on God, a family that tries to do what's right, a family that adheres to what it needs to adhere to as a family. You understand? I'm not saying we're perfect. I'm saying that's what we do. But when you look at everybody else, and I'm not talking about everybody around the world, I'm just saying in America, if you look at what's going on with what's pervasive in society, it's a selfish way to look at everything. Materialism reigns supreme. And if you look at the government, it's the same thing. Let's just take Elon Musk for a minute. Excuse me. $480 billion, right? Say, for instance, you had that amount of money for real. Well, he doesn't have it. These are stocks. But anyway, let's just say you can't spend that in 45 lifetimes. So when is enough enough? Huh? Do you want 480 billion just so that you can be looked at as a person that's the richest person in the world? What is the 480 billion for? Why won't you put that to work? Not in Tesla, but in people's lives. You can't take any of that with you. So when you look at the politicians and the greedy corporations, they don't value life. They don't value education the way that they should. They want it all right now for themselves to hoard it up. And that's why we see the policy of empire is to continue to expand and take what others have. We're too busy watching what others have than focusing on what we need to have to benefit for our people. That's how that goes. What M. Spark says, his story, not history. You better believe that when it comes to the United States and everybody else. FaZe says this: when the U.S. West goes backward, let me put this on the screen, goes backwards, culturally, economically, developmentally, it drags others down with them too. Absolutely. And so when they devolve into this savagery, think about this, the spending over $1 trillion on weapons, what does that mean? Other nations have to do the same thing so that they won't be taken advantage of by America. And the more America spends, the more it forces others to spend when they could be taking that money, investing it into people. To give you an example, China has done something that had never been done before. And this does not get looked at a lot. So I try to bring this up. They took 850 million people out of poverty and moved them to the middle class level. This is almost equivalent to the entire population of the West. I'm talking about Europe and the United States. They took the population essentially of Europe and the United States and moved them out of poverty into the middle class by investing in education, investing in agriculture, and investing in people's daily lives, seeing what triggers them, what they want, what they don't want. And all we can do is demonize the people who are the governments that are investing in their people because we don't like their form of government. Hell, maybe if you did something, people will like yours. You keep going around the world telling everybody that democracy is the best way. Yet every time everybody turns around, the democratic nations are trying to strong arm or rob other nations, trying to dictate to other nations what they should and shouldn't do. You don't have to put a gun to somebody's head to tell them if something is good for them. If what you have is good, all you have to do is set the example. People will notice it. And then they'll incorporate it into their own lives, into their own governments, into their own policies. But to always try to demand that others conform to your dictates means that you're trying to be God, to force and make and mold everybody into your image and your likeness when you've only been around for a couple hundred years. And these other nations have cultures that go into the thousands of years and millions of years. So you the new kid on the block trying to tell everybody else what to do. Man, I'm telling you, it's crazy. So again, Cosmo Ray says this. In 1971, 61% of Americans lived in the middle class household. But by 2023, that number had fallen to 51%. I take that to task. I think it's lower than that. And Hamza, he says, what is this blocking my view of you? Okay. Hold on, my screen is being blocked on my end. Hold on one second. I know it's up on that screen, but it's being blocked. All right, I'm going to have to look on the screen right here. It says, typical colonizer mentality. Remember, these are the same European pilgrims holding the real Americans in reservations. See, listen, you can't force me into what you want. If what you have is good, I'll see the goodness in it and I'll gravitate towards that. But you can't hold the gun to somebody. Look what they're doing. If you don't sanction Russia, we'll sanction you. If you don't go against China, we'll go against you. I want you to understand how this works with the West, the European continent and America, because both of them are doing this. Listen. Now, they want a unified front. And if China sanctions America, the European Union say, well, we can't go along with that. America is our ally. We got to do this. And vice versa. If China sanctions America, sanctions Europe, and America says, well, these are our European allies. We don't look at those sanctions as legitimate. But then they sanction Russia because they have a problem with Russia. Now, China doesn't have the problem that they have with Russia. China does not have the problem that America and Europe has with Russia. But then they go to China and say, we demand that you do this, this, and this, even though it's to China's detriment if they implement it. Even though China and Russia are neighbors and strategic allies. But America and Europe are so hung up on this Eurocentric, I must dominate and dictate way of thinking, that they go to China and tell China, which is a half a world away, that you must implement sanctions on Russia. You must do this. Why? China says, why? Because we did it. Because we see and we feel and we think. Well, if you got the problem, you deal with it. You don't come and tell me that I have to make up a problem with my friend, my brother, and my neighbor. You didn't do it to America, Europe. America, you didn't do it to Europe when we asked you to do it. So what gives you the authority to tell us that if we don't abide by what you say because you have a beef with Russia, then you're going to sanction us? Huh? To give you an example of that, Hamza, you may have a beef with Cosmo Ray. And then you come to my house and tell me, look, Rashid, I got this beef with Cosmo Ray, and I'm going to sanction him. And I say, listen, Cosmo has been nothing but good to me. And we are trading, and I'm getting some of the good tomatoes that he's growing, and he's buying the carrots that I'm growing, and it's a win-win situation. And you say, no, listen, I got a problem with him. So I'm going to enact sanctions on him, and you got to enact sanctions on him. And I'm like, man, hold on. Listen, you and I are cool, and me and Cosmo are cool. Don't interject me into your problems. Well, if you don't do it, then I'm going to sanction you. What do you think that does? That alienates me also. Because now I'm looking at you like maybe this friendship is not beneficial to me because you want what you want when you want it, regardless to how it affects me. That's what the world and the leaders are looking at with America and Europe when they try to force everybody else to do their bidding. That's what they're looking at. Political theatrics. I'm telling you this. Let's go a little further. Oh, it's an hour. I didn't want to keep y'all this long on a show, but let's go to the chat real quick. It says, Perseverance Community says they only know one way, the colonial way. Absolutely. The rest of the world is moving beyond that. And that's the problem that they have. When you have ruled so universally for so long, it's hard for you to see someone else being able to make policies outside of your control. It's like a boxer. You know, this boxer has been the dominant boxer for 15 years. And this up-and-coming kid on the block looks at him and is like, I'm coming to take the title. No disrespect to you, but it's my time to shine. But you have become so inebriated off the adulation and the applause and the accolades that you know that it's past your prime, but you don't want to get down and put the belt down for somebody else to become champion. You want to hold that on, even though it may be a risk to your life. You're past your prime. This is what we're watching with the West. They're past their prime, but they can't see in their mind anybody else ruling or any other world order outside of the dictates of the West. So guess what they do? They vilify, demonize, and then destabilize leaders and nations and governments. And to show you just how insane the leadership is, they're even preparing for thermonuclear war. Now look at this. Let's see if America, I always bring this up, let's see if America, and let's see if the Western world has the right to rule and dictate, okay? Let's look at their leadership for the last 500 years, right? Raping, pillaging, robbing, colonizing, and doing all of that, right? Listen to me good, okay? Exploiting their own people. Look at the poverty rate that's growing in all of these Western countries, ignoring the will of their own people, right? And now we're on the brink of thermonuclear war. One miscalculation between America, NATO, and Russia can lead the world down a slippery slope to thermonuclear annihilation. One misstep by Trump's pivot to Asia can lead the world down the slippery slope to thermonuclear annihilation. One misstep by Israel and America with Iran could cause Russia and China to intervene, leading us down the slippery slope to thermonuclear annihilation. This is on their watch. So now when we weigh the facts and put them on a scale, we see that they have been wanting. They are wanting. We don't want leadership like that. It is time for a change, not just a partial change, but a universal change. We need leadership and leaders that think outside of Western domination and think outside of pure dominating and raping and robbing and exploitation of the people. When you look at a person, you look at them with respect. You look at them for the humanity in them, and not for what I can get out of that person. You understand? Let me go to the chat real quick because I saw something. I missed something. Hamza says, remember the opium wars. He said these jokers will start a world war before seeing the collapse of the dollar. Absolutely. Listen, America has just redeployed nuclear weapons to England and just redeployed nuclear weapons to NATO nations. Now, remember what I told y'all on episodes a couple years ago. Most people don't realize that when Russia and the United States finally go at it, and they're going to go at it, but it'll be a little bit down the line, that Russia is going to dig so far in America's backside that America is going to hit her with nuclear weapons. Now, this won't go globally. Come back to me in a year or two, and everything that I've said on my show has now taken place with the Middle East, with the deposing of Assad, with the U.S. trying to go to war with Iran, with them sanctioning North Africa, with them destabilizing West Asia, with them down in there with the color revolution in Latin America, and with the Caucasus being destabilized. I've said this, go back, look at my track record. This is what got me banned out of the search engine on YouTube. And now we're looking at all of this stuff happening. So I think I have a pretty good track record to say this. So when it does happen, there will be a nuclear conflagration in Europe. It won't spread the world over, but it'll be in Europe. But you'll see. But first, there'll be war in what they call West Asia, which is the Western world calls it the Middle East. And then it'll escalate to Asia, and China is going to put it on America. China is going to put it on the U.S. Believe me when I tell you this. I'm not just telling you out of feeling. I'm telling you something that I have an insight to, and everything that I've laid out before you before has come to fruition. So you can take it or leave it. It's on you. And Faye says, very well said, Rashid. The U.S. West should lead by example if it is confident that its model and system is superior. It shouldn't need to impose them. Absolutely. When you try to impose your will on it, it makes people skeptical. It makes people skeptical of that. And then, what is that to anybody? Shout out to Debbie. Debbie Holando, thank you so much for becoming a channel member. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, thank you. Exponent Zero says, oh, let me go back. Let me put Debbie back up there because that needs to step there for a minute. The Empire has been using the rope-a-dope boxing strategy. Will be punch drunk soon. Absolutely, that's a good example right there. We'll be punch drunk soon because she's fighting everybody. She's like she's like a midget fighting a 7-footer. She keep punching, but all you punching is the shins. And the giant is punching down on you on the top of your head. Sooner or later, you're gonna give way. We're looking at that in real time. Let's see. Let me go to my media real quick because there's something I wanted to show you all. So, if you think something has changed, let me show you something, okay? This is Vladimir Putin. This is what I'm telling you when I say all of this theatrics. There's a continuation of government policy, regardless to administration. On one side, they cater to this base. On the other side, they cater to that base. But you notice no real change actually happens on the ground. They may do a few things, but no real change is coming. People say, well, look what Trump is doing, how he's cleaning out the closet of the CIA and this and this and this and this. These people are billionaires. Do you actually believe that they're concerned with justice for you when they've made a living off of fleecing you and exploiting you? How did they become billionaires? How did Elon Musk become a billionaire? Through his ties with his pops and their ties with the CIA and their ties with the other intelligence agencies. And you're telling me that he's against that? Man, stop this. All right. What about Donald Trump? How did he become a billionaire? His pops left him some money. He was into the casino laundering stuff, right? And he got in contact with some powerful people who are Khazars, right? And they helped him out, and the man defaulted on multiple loans, multiple business gigs, and he's still a billionaire. Could I have done that without connections? That's the epitome of DEI. So don't start talking about the undoing of DEI when you've made your wealth on that. And we say 15 new billionaires in the Trump administration. Excuse me. And we say that what's going on is a head move, a fake. Hey, have you ever saw the 3-card Molly, whatever it's called, where the magician is out and he has a table out there and he has 3 cards out there, right? And he's moving them around. And what you're trying to do is figure out what's under that card. And you put your money down. And every time you think you have where that card is, you wind up, oh, I thought I was right there. I almost had it. And you don't realize the card is in the guy's pocket, right? That's what they do in politics. That's what they do in government. They have to cater to specific bases to keep the people pacified so that they can push policy through. Let's go back to something real quick. You remember we were talking about how people say, well, look what Trump's doing. He's cleaning out all this and he's doing this. You know why he's doing that? He's consolidating power. Why is he consolidating power? What do tyrannical leaders, and I'm not saying Trump is a tyrannical leader, okay? I think he has some good ideas. But I'm saying, what do tyrannical leaders do before they seize all power? What do? They clean out areas that may be in opposition to what they want to do. And these areas may be in opposition to war with Iran. They may be in opposition to war with China. They may be in opposition to reigniting the war in Europe, right? So what do? You clean them out. You put your people in the power. And remember that people are pulling your strings also now. So that, and why do you have them there? So that when there's an uprising, when there's a rebellion against that, you can squash the rebellion, and you know that the people in uniform are your appointees. The people in the courts are your appointees. The people who run government are your allies. So you get little to no blowback so you can suppress opposition. So when you look at what's going on, you have to look at it from that standpoint too, because if war is going to happen and people are out there telling you no war with Iran, and you are helping Israel, and you say we're going to stand by Israel, and Israel is determined to attack Iran, what do? You put in place people that will help you squash the uprising, the protests, and all of that stuff. When everybody is telling you, hey, war with China is not a good idea, what do? You remove the people that tell you that. And then you put into place people that are going to go along with the policy that your handlers have told you to implement. And you become somewhat, not a dictator, but somewhat dictatorial, because you can dictate to the people while your people who print the money dictate to you. As a matter of fact, this is what Putin has to say about this event.
Понимаете, я уже общался и с одним президентом США, и с другим, и с третьим. Президенты приходят и уходят, а политика не меняется. Знаете почему? Потому что очень сильна власть бюрократии. Вот человека избрали, он приходит с одними идеями, к нему приходят люди с кейсами, хорошо одетые и в темных, как у меня, костюмах, но только не с красным галстуком, а с черным или с темно-синим. И начинают объяснять, как нужно делать. И все сразу меняется, понимаете? Это происходит от одной администрации к другой.
They may have good ideas. But as soon as they get elected, men in well-dressed men in suits come and explain to them what you're going to do and what you're not going to do, how you're going to enact this policy and what you're going to stay away from. Matter of fact, let's play that again. Listen to what this man said. And how would he know? This man has been in office for the longest, and he's dealt with multiple administrations from George Bush Jr. on up. So listen to what he had to say about dealing with the U.S. government and what he's come to learn with dealing with different administrations. So it's not just me. You're going to listen to Vladimir Putin tell you what he's experienced, okay?
Понимаете, я уже общался и с одним президентом США, и с другим, и с третьим. Президенты приходят и уходят, а политика не меняется. Знаете почему? Потому что очень сильна власть бюрократии. Вот человека избрали, он приходит с одними идеями, к нему приходят люди с кейсами, хорошо одетые и в темных, как у меня, костюмах, но только не с красным галстуком, а с черным или с темно-синим. И начинают объяснять, как нужно делать. И все сразу меняется, понимаете? Это происходит от одной администрации к другой. Вот что-то изменить — это достаточно сложное дело. Это, я говорю без всякой иронии. Это не потому, что кому-то не хочется, а потому что это сложно. Вот Обама, он же продвинутый человек, очень человек либеральных взглядов. Правда? Демократ. Он же перед выборами своими обещал закрыть Гуантанамо. Сделал? Нет. А почему? Он что, не хотел? Очень хотел. Я уверен, что хотел. Но не получилось. Он искренне к этому стремился. Не получается. Не так все просто. Но это не самый главный вопрос, хотя это важно. Это трудно себе представить. Да? Люди в кандалах ходят там уже десятилетиями, без суда и следствия. Ну, представьте себе, Франция бы так сделала, или Россия. С потрохами.
This is not me making this stuff up. Do you remember when Trump, on his first go around in the Oval Office, when he pledged to pull the troops out of Syria? Did he? Huh? People say, well, he gave the order, but nobody followed it. Then what does that mean about him then? Remember when George Bush Jr. was in office, what did he say? The buck stops here. I'm the decision maker, right? But instead of pulling the troops out of Syria, what did they do? They doubled down. They opened Al Tunf, that base, right? They bombed Syria's desert, right? They doubled and reinforced the terrorists, right? They doubled the funding, gave more aid, and trained the Kurds and Al-Qaeda or ISIS affiliates. But he said, we were coming out of Syria. Did they come out? Are they out of Syria? Is the United States out of Syria? We're on his second administration. The first one, then Joe Biden, and now him. Are they out of Syria? Even after the fall of Assad, are they out? Huh? Political theatrics. Political theatrics. I keep telling you guys. Now let me go back to the chat real quick. This thing is jumping. I'm sorry, everybody, if I don't get your thing up. Exponent Zero says the first thing the black suits do is play the brutal film on slow-mo with high resolution on the gray matter exploding. Are we getting through to you, Mr. President? Absolutely. Absolutely. So you think through the fall. There was a lot of hype coming out. What was 2 days ago? Let me say this to you. It was a lot of hype coming out. Oh, they're gonna expose the Epstein files, right? And Trump made it his business to say, I barely knew Epstein, right? Even though we knew that he was friends with him. I never went to the island, but they released a statement on Michael Jackson being there. Now you never saw Michael Jackson's picture with Epstein. You never see some of the people that they say were on the island. But what we have seen is this right here. President Donald Trump with Epstein. Okay? What I'm telling you is for you to get in this position, you have to be compromised. They have to have something on you. They have to be able to make you toe the line to do certain things that they want. They're not like they're micromanaging you, but they tell you this has to be done, this has to be done, this has to be done. You can't do this, you can't do this, and you can't do this. And you have to follow those directives, or else they release all kind of stuff on you. Some of it they'll make it up, and some of it they'll mix with the truth, and then they'll destroy you. That's what happens. Why did they release information on other people but didn't release that? And the connection with all of that stuff. Huh? This stuff is political theatrics from the empire, I'm telling you. Listen, I've had you guys here for an hour and a half. We're going to do another live. I want to thank everybody for donating. Thank all the new channel members. You know you kick butt. The chat kicks butt. We got the best chat in the world. Also join us, I think tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, on another program. Also, we got a live coming up for channel members. We also got a live coming up for patrons. And this weekend, also join us over on the New Atlas. Also, we'll be doing a roundtable discussion on the New Atlas again. My guy, Brian, has invited me back over there, and we're going to chop it up and give some more information. Also, check it out. Go to all of the platforms, the Rumble, the Odyssey, the X, the Patreon. I'm trying to get them all out. Go to the empowermentoftruth.locals.com. Join there, it's free. And go to, it's one more. I can't think of it right now. But I want all of you all to join, and let's keep this thing going. Let's ride the momentum, and let's get the truth out. And you look out for me, I look out for you. We won't let anybody take advantage of us. And remember, as I always say, do right by others, not because there's some material gain in it or because you may get applause or accolades for that. Do right by others because it's the right and humane thing to do. Because even when no one else is watching, God Almighty is watching. He may sit high, but he looks low. Okay? Know that I love each and every one of you who loves truth, but know that the love that I have for you will always pale in comparison to the love that God has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true. but remember to always stay righteous. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody. Thank you all for joining me and participating. We out of here. Peace.
Told you to walk away. That was my first and last mistake. I'm blue without your face. But what can I do? 'Cause I'm just a sinking ship, and you're just a